They say dead men tell no tales. But what if a dead man could walk into his own funeral and tell everyone exactly who killed him? What if that dead man was actually alive, watching his murderer cry fake tears over his coffin? Before we dive into this incredible true story from Lagos, Nigeria, do me a quick favor, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me which country you're watching from. I love seeing how far these African stories travel across the world. Now grab your popcorn, lock your doors and get comfortable, because what you're about to hear will challenge everything you thought you knew about the people closest to you. That person lying next to you tonight, that best friend who calls you brother or sister, that relative who smiles at every family gathering. After hearing what happened to Daniel Adeyemi, you'll never look at them the same way again. This is not fiction. This is not a ghost story. This actually happened in Lagos, and by the end of this story you'll understand why sometimes the most dangerous person in your life is the one who says "I love you" every night. So whether you're watching from Nigeria, South Africa, the UK, America, or anywhere else in the world, and please let me know in the comments, settle in for a story that will make you question every glass of wine, every home-cooked meal, every kiss goodnight. It all started on a humid Friday evening when Daniel Adeyemi came home 3 days early from Dubai. 3 days that saved his life. 3 days that would reveal a betrayal so deep, he had to die to expose it. And it began with a conversation he was never meant to hear. The third mainland bridge stretched endlessly before Daniel's Mercedes G-Wagon as his driver, Kunal, navigated the famous Lagos traffic. It was past 9 in the evening, and the lights from the mainland twinkled like fallen stars on the lagoon water. Daniel had just closed a $50 million deal in Dubai, cutting his trip short by 3 days. He couldn't wait to surprise Rebecca, his beautiful wife, waiting for him in their Banana Island mansion. "Oga, Madam no go day expect you tonight, oh," Kunal said, glancing at his boss through the rearview mirror. "You suppose make I stop for ShopRite, make we buy something?" Daniel smiled, loosening his Italian tie. "No need, Kunal, the surprise is enough. Rebecca loves surprises." How wrong he was. The Banana Island estate was the most expensive neighborhood in Lagos, maybe in all of West Africa. Their mansion sat on 2 plots, its white walls gleaming under security lights. Daniel had bought it 5 years ago when his oil servicing company had gone public. Rebecca had cried with joy that day, calling him her king, her provider, her everything. "Kunal, park outside the gate," Daniel said suddenly. "I want to walk in quietly, really surprise her." Kunal looked concerned. "Oga, but the security." "They know me, don't worry." Daniel stepped out into the humid Lagos night. The security men at the gate were surprised but let him in immediately. He walked up the palm tree-lined driveway, his Italian shoes clicking softly on the interlocked stones. The house was mostly dark except for the master bedroom light upstairs and the soft glow from the living room. As Daniel approached the front door, he heard Rebecca's voice floating through the open window. She was laughing that throaty, sensual laugh he'd fallen in love with at that OM party in Lekki 13 years ago. "Honey, you worry too much," Rebecca's voice carried clearly in the quiet night. "I told you everything is perfect. The poison is already here." Daniel froze. His hand, reaching for the door handle, stopped midair. "It came from that woman in Computer Village, the one Tony connected me with. She said just 3 drops in his red wine and Daniel will be history by morning." The blood in Daniel's veins turned to ice water. His legs suddenly felt like they couldn't hold his weight. He leaned against the wall, forcing himself to keep listening. Rebecca laughed again. "Baby, I know you're anxious, but trust me. Daniel is so predictable. Every Friday night when he comes back from his trips, he drinks that specific Chateau Margaux wine. He says it helps him relax. This Friday, it will help him relax permanently." A male voice responded through the speaker phone, but Daniel couldn't make out the exact words. "Of course I've thought about the children." Rebecca's voice turned sharp. "Timmy and Kemi will be fine. They'll inherit everything and I'll be the trustee until they turn 21. That's 15 years of access to billions, baby. 15 years. Daniel's mind was spinning. Timmy was only 6, Kemi just 4, his precious children. Rebecca was planning to use their inheritance for herself. "The beautiful part," Rebecca continued, her voice dropping to an excited whisper, "is that I already bought the casket. Black mahogany with gold handles, just like his mother had. I told the funeral home I was being a prepared wife since Daniel travels so much. They actually praised me for being thoughtful." The person on the phone said something that made Rebecca giggle like a schoolgirl. "Yes, I've been practicing my widow performance. I watched YouTube videos of grieving wives. I even bought special eye drops to make the tears look more realistic. The society women will rally around me. the poor young widow with 2 small children. Daniel's fist clenched so tight his nails dug into his palm. Young, Rebecca was 35, hardly young, but she looked 25 thanks to the Brazilian body contouring and facial procedures he'd paid for. Listen, baby, he lands Friday evening. That gives us 3 days to make sure everything is perfect. The CCTV system will conveniently malfunction that day. I've arranged that with the security company. They think it's for a surprise birthday party. More muffled words from the phone. No, we can't be together immediately, that would be too suspicious. Give it 6 months, you'll comfort me as his best friend should. Then slowly people will see us growing closer. In 1 year we marry and nobody will question it. Best friend, Daniel's heart already shattered, crumbled to dust. Which of his friends was she talking to? Who was this baby she was planning his murder with? I have to go, Rebecca suddenly said. The kids are coming downstairs. Remember, act normal when you see him, I love you too. Daniel heard footsteps and quickly moved into the shadows behind the garden shed. The front door opened and Rebecca stepped out onto the porch. In the moonlight, she looked beautiful, her skin glowing, her long Brazilian weave flowing past her shoulders. She was wearing the silk nightgown he'd bought her from Paris, the one that cost €8,000. She looked up at the stars and smiled. Not the fake smile she wore at social events, but a genuine, satisfied smile. The smile of a woman who thought she'd won the lottery. Then she spoke to herself so quietly Daniel almost missed it. Sorry, Daniel, but you were always too boring for me anyway. No ambition beyond making money. Tony knows how to live, how to make a woman feel alive. Tony Anthony Okchukwu, his best friend since secondary school at King's College, his best man at their wedding, the godfather to Timmy. Daniel watched his wife go back inside, humming a happy tune. Through the window, he saw her check on the children, tucking them into bed with mother-like care. The same hands that had just discussed his murder were now gently stroking his daughter's hair. Daniel backed away slowly, his mind in chaos. When he reached the gate, he walked past it, past his car where Cunnell waited and kept walking down the empty Banana Island road. His phone rang, Rebecca calling. He let it ring. Finally, Cunnell drove up beside him. "Ogre, sir, what happened? You look good." "Take me to Eco Hotel," Daniel managed to say. "But sir, Madame Donde call." "Hotel Cunnell, now." Drive to Victoria Island was a blur. Daniel stared out at the Lagos night. The yellow Danfo buses still operating despite the late hour, the street hawkers selling gala and drinks, the area boys gathering at street corners. Normal Lagos life continuing while his world had just ended. At Eco Hotel, Daniel checked in using his middle name. The luxury suite faced the Atlantic Ocean, its windows offering a view of the Lagos Bar beach. But Daniel didn't see any of it. He sat on the king-sized bed, his head in his hands, trying to process what he'd just learned. His phone buzzed continuously. Rebecca sending messages. "Baby, where are you? Cunnell said you came but left. Is everything okay? Daniel, you're scaring me. Please call. The kids are asking for daddy." That last message almost broke him. The kids, his innocent children who had no idea their mother was planning to make them orphans. Another message came in. "I made your favorite jollof rice with turkey. It's waiting for you. And I have that special wine you love chilled and ready." The wine, the same wine she planned to poison in 3 days. Daniel stood up and walked to the window. Below, Lagos nightlife continued. Couples walked along the beach. Music drifted from the nearby clubs. Life went on while his had just stopped. But as the shock began to wear off, something else began to build inside Daniel. Not sadness, not even anger, something colder, more calculated. Rebecca thought she was smart. She thought she had planned the perfect murder. She'd forgotten one thing though: Daniel Ademi didn't build a billionaire empire by being stupid or weak. He picked up his phone and scrolled to a contact he hadn't called in years. Mrs. Folktale, his personal lawyer and the only person he trusted completely. "Daniel, it's past midnight, what's wrong? Folktale, I need to see you first thing tomorrow. And I need you to recommend the best private investigator in Lagos." "Daniel, what's going on? Someone is trying to kill me, Folktale, and that someone is my wife." There was silence on the other end. Then Folktale's voice, sharp and alert. "Where are you?" "Eco Hotel, room 1247. Don't go home, don't contact anyone, I'll be there. 7 a.m. with someone who can help." After hanging up, Daniel sent Rebecca one message. "Had emergency in Abuja, will be back Friday as planned. Love you." Response was immediate. "Oh, thank God, I was so worried. Friday can't come soon enough. I miss you already, my love." Daniel threw his phone across the room. Then he walked back to the window, staring at the dark ocean. Rebecca wanted him dead by Friday. She wanted to pour poison into his wine and watch him die, then cry fake tears at his funeral. But Daniel had other plans. If Rebecca wanted to play death games, he would give her exactly what she wanted. He would die. And then, like Lazarus from the Bible his mother used to read, he would rise again. The game had just begun, and Rebecca had no idea she'd already lost. The morning sun rising over Lagos Harbour painted the sky orange and purple, but Daniel hadn't slept at all. He stood on the balcony of his hotel room, his third cup of coffee growing cold in his hands. The city was waking up, the sound of car horns already filling the air, the Muslim call to prayer echoing from a nearby mosque in Victoria Island. At exactly 7 o'clock, a knock came at his door. Mrs. Folktale entered, dressed in her signature power suit despite it being Saturday. Behind her was a man Daniel didn't recognize, tall, dark, with eyes that seemed to see everything. "Daniel, this is Segun Badmus," Folktale introduced. "Former SSS officer, now the best private investigator in West Africa." Segun shook Daniel's hand firmly. "Mr. Ademi, Folktale briefed me on the way here. We need to move fast but carefully. Your wife thinks you're in Abuja." "Yes, I'm supposed to return Friday evening." "Good, that gives us time." Segun pulled out a small device from his bag. "First, I need you to tell me everything you heard, don't leave out any detail." Daniel recounted the previous night's events. With each word, Folek's face grew darker. When he mentioned Tony's name, she actually gasped. "Tony Anthony Okchukwu, but he's my best friend, my brother, the person I trusted most after Rebecca." Daniel's voice was bitter. Segun was typing on his laptop. "Mr. Ademi, I need access to your house security system. Can you log in remotely?" Daniel provided the passwords. Within minutes, Segun was scrolling through footage. "Look at this," he said, turning the screen toward them. "This is from 2 weeks ago, Wednesday afternoon." Footage showed Tony entering the house. Rebecca greeted him with a kiss that was definitely not appropriate for a friend's wife. They disappeared upstairs for 3 hours. And this is from last month. Another video. Tony and Rebecca in Daniel's study going through his documents. Rebecca was showing Tony something on the computer, Daniel's investment portfolio. "They've been planning this for months," Segun said. "Maybe longer, I need to dig deeper." Folek was packing the room like a caged lioness. "Daniel, we need to go to the police. This is attempted murder," Daniel said firmly. "Not yet." "What do you mean not yet? They're planning to kill you." Daniel turned from the window. "Folek, if we go to the police now, what happens? Rebecca gets arrested for conspiracy. Maybe she serves a few years." "No, I want them to think they've won. I want to see how deep this betrayal goes." Segun nodded slowly. "You want to fake your death, exactly." Folek sat down heavily. "Daniel, that's illegal and dangerous." "Is it illegal to not drink wine my wife offers me? Is it illegal to pretend to be sicker than I am?" Daniel's eyes were cold. "Find me a way, Folek, legal or not." Segun's phone buzzed. He looked at it and his expression changed. "Mr. Ademi, I had my assistant start investigating your wife's finances. You need to see this." He showed them his phone. Multiple bank accounts in Rebecca's maiden name. Transfers from Daniel's business accounts, small amounts but consistent over 2 years. "She's stolen about 70 million naira so far," Segun said. "But that's not the worst part. Look at this. A medical record from a private clinic in Ikoyi. Rebecca had been there 6 months ago. She had a procedure," Segun explained. "She had her tubes untied. She'd been planning to have more children, just not with you." Daniel felt his legs give way. He sat down hard on the couch. "What?" "There's more. She's been taking fertility drugs. She's trying to get pregnant with Tony's child while still married to you." The room spun around Daniel. After Kemi was born, Rebecca had said she wanted no more children. She'd had her tubes tied, said pregnancy was too hard on her body. Now she wanted Tony's baby. "The children," Daniel suddenly said. "Timmy and Kemi, are they?" Segun was already ahead of him. "We'll need DNA tests to be sure." Folek's phone rang. She answered, then handed it to Daniel. "It's your mother." Daniel's mother's voice was worried. "Daniel, Rebecca called me. She says you're in Abuja, but your assistant at the office said you were coming back from Dubai yesterday." "Mama, I'm fine. I'm handling some business." "Daniel, that girl, I never liked her. Something about her eyes. She doesn't look at you with love. She looks at you like you're a bank account." If only she knew how right she was. After reassuring his mother, Daniel made a decision. "Segun, I need you to follow Rebecca today. Record everything. Folek, can you get access to my life insurance policies without alerting anyone?" "Daniel, what are you planning?" "Rebecca wants me dead, so I'm going to die." But first I want to know exactly what I'm dealing with. That afternoon, while Daniel waited in the hotel, Segun sent him real-time updates. Rebecca had gone to Tony's house in Lekki Phase 1. The investigator had used a long-range microphone to capture their conversation. Daniel put in his earphones and listened to the recording. 3 more days, baby, Rebecca's voice cooed. 3 more days and we're free. Are you sure he doesn't suspect anything? Tony asked. He's too trusting, too stupid. 12 years and he never once questioned where I went, who I was with. He just worked and worked, thinking money would keep me happy. Well, his money will keep us happy now. They both laughed. Been thinking, Rebecca continued. After he's dead, we should take the kids to London, start fresh. Nobody there will know our history. What about his mother? That old woman, she already doesn't like me. After Daniel dies, I'll cut her off completely. She won't even see her grandchildren again. Daniel's hands clenched into fists. They were planning to take his children away from his mother too. The recording continued. Oh, I bought a pregnancy test today, Rebecca said excitedly. I think this might be the month. You're pregnant, Tony sounded thrilled. Maybe, wouldn't it be perfect? Daniel dies, and a few months later, I discover I'm pregnant with my late husband's child. Except you and I will know the truth. You're brilliant, Tony said. Evil but brilliant. Not evil, baby, just practical. Daniel was a means to an end. He served his purpose, gave me a good life, 2 children, and now he'll give me his fortune. It's business. Daniel stopped the recording. He couldn't listen anymore. Segun called. Sir, there's something else. I checked the poison she mentioned. The woman in Computer Village, I know who she is. She's killed 7 men in the last 5 years, all wealthy husbands. The police have been looking for her. You find her? Already did. She's agreed to cooperate in exchange for a reduced sentence. She'll give us a fake poison, something harmless that looks like the real thing. Daniel felt a spark of hope. So Rebecca will think she's poisoning me, but it won't actually work. Exactly, but you'll need to act. Can you pretend to die convincingly? Daniel thought about his drama classes in university before he dropped out to focus on business. I'll manage. That evening, Daniel sat with Folek and Segun, planning every detail. They would switch the poison. Daniel would take something to slow his heart rate, making him appear dead. Dr. Adwale, a trustworthy doctor at Lagos University Teaching Hospital, would pronounce him dead while actually keeping him safe. But what about the burial? Folek asked. Let them bury an empty coffin, Daniel said coldly. I want to see who cries real tears and who celebrates. Segun's phone buzzed again. His face went pale as he read the message. What is it? Daniel asked. DNA results just came in. I had my contact at the lab rush them. Daniel's heart pounded. And, Timmy is yours, but Kemi. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Kemi is Tony's daughter. Daniel stood up so fast his chair fell over. He walked to the balcony, gripping the railing so hard his knuckles turned white. His baby girl. His precious Kemi, who called him daddy and ran to him every evening when he came home. She wasn't his 4 years. For 4 years he'd been raising Tony's child while Tony smiled in his face, ate at his table, called him brother. Folek joined him on the balcony. Daniel, I'm so sorry, named her Kemi. To care for me, she named another man's child that and put her in my arms. Daniel's voice was hollow. What do you want to do? Daniel watched the sun setting over Lagos, painting the city red like blood. In 3 days, Rebecca would serve him poisoned wine. She would watch him die, thinking she'd won everything. We stick to the plan, he said finally. But now I want more than just to expose them. I want them to lose everything. I want them to feel what I'm feeling right now. Daniel, revenge won't heal this pain. No, but justice might help. As night fell over Lagos, Daniel stood on that balcony, a man destroyed and reborn in the same moment. His wife and best friend thought they were predators and he was prey. They were about to learn that even prey can become deadly when cornered. Friday was coming. The Last Supper was approaching, and Daniel Ademi would rise from the dead to show them that some betrayals demand biblical justice. Thursday morning came with heavy Lagos rain, the kind that turned the streets of Victoria Island into temporary rivers. Daniel stood in his hotel room, watching the weather match his mood. Tomorrow he would die. Tomorrow his wife would become a widow and she would celebrate while pretending to mourn. Segun arrived with a small bottle. This is from Dr. Adwale, tetrodotoxin derivative. It will slow your heart to almost nothing. You'll be conscious but unable to move for about 6 hours. Almost nothing. 3 beats per minute. Any less and you risk actual death. The doctor will be on standby at LUTH. The moment you arrive, he takes over. Daniel took the bottle, so small yet so crucial to his plan, and the poison. Already switched. My contact replaced Rebecca's poison with harmless food coloring mixed with bitter herbs. It will taste bad but won't hurt you. Folake entered with documents. Daniel, I've revised your will. If you die tomorrow, everything goes to a trust I control. Rebecca gets nothing until the will is read, which I'll delay as long as possible. What about the children? Provided for separately, Rebecca can't touch their inheritance. Daniel nodded, then picked up his phone. He had to play the loving husband one more time. Rebecca, it's me. Baby, Rebecca's voice was honey sweet. Are you still in Abuja? Yes, but I'll be home tomorrow evening as planned. I miss you and the kids. Miss you too. I'm planning something special for dinner tomorrow, your favorite. If only she knew that he knew exactly what she was planning. Rebecca, I love you, Daniel lied, the words like ash in his mouth. Love you too, baby, always and forever. Forever would end tomorrow. That evening, Daniel met with his mother secretly at a small restaurant in Ikja, far from their usual spots. She looked worried, her face showing all of her 68 years. Mama, I need to tell you something, but you must promise to stay calm. Daniel, you're scaring me. He told her everything. By the end, she was crying, her hands shaking as she held his. That witch, I knew she was evil. And Tony, that boy ate at my table every Sunday. Mama, tomorrow I'm going to fake my death. You'll need to pretend to grieve. Can you do that? His mother wiped her tears and steel entered her eyes. I gave birth to you. I can pretend anything to protect you. Friday arrived with clear skies, as if nature itself wanted a good view of the drama about to unfold. Daniel checked out of the hotel at noon, his hands steady despite what lay ahead. Oga, we're going home, Cunnel asked when Daniel got in the car. Yes, Cunnel, home. Drive from Victoria Island to Banana Island took 30 minutes. As they crossed the Ikoyi Bridge, Daniel looked at the Lagos Lagoon and wondered if this would be his last time seeing it as a living man. The house came into view, magnificent, expensive, and hiding a murderous plot. Daniel took the tetrodotoxin derivative in the car, timing it perfectly. Dr. Adwale had said it would take exactly 1 hour to fully work. Welcome home, sir, the gateman greeted cheerfully. If only he knew, he was welcoming a man to his execution. Rebecca met him at the door, looking stunning in a red dress that hugged her surgery-enhanced figure. She threw her arms around him, and Daniel forced himself to embrace her back. I missed you so much, she whispered in his ear. Behind her, Daniel saw Tony sitting in the living room, casual as ever in jeans and a polo shirt. Daniel, my brother. Tony stood up, coming for their usual handshake and shoulder bump. How was Abuja? Stressful, Daniel replied, looking into the eyes of the man who'd fathered his daughter. But it's good to be home. Daddy, Timmy ran to him, and Daniel's heart broke a little. His son, his actual son, wouldn't have a father after tonight. Then came Kemi, Tony's daughter, who called him Daddy. Daddy, I drew you a picture. It was a family portrait, stick figures, but clearly showing all 4 of them happy under a yellow sun. Daniel held back tears. It's beautiful, princess. Okay, kids, let Daddy rest. Rebecca ushered them away. Go play with Auntie Grace upstairs. Nanny took the children, and Rebecca led Daniel to the dining room. The table was set perfectly, their best china, candles, flowers. A last supper fit for a king or a murder. I made all your favorites, Rebecca said, serving him. Jollof rice, peppered snail, that special fish you like from that place in Oberlend. Daniel ate slowly, tasting perhaps his last meal as a free man. The drug was working. He could feel his body starting to slow down, his reactions becoming delayed. Then came the moment. Rebecca brought out the wine. Chateau Margaux, his favorite, the one that cost 200,000 naira per bottle. This is the 2015 vintage, she said, showing him the label. I've been saving it for a special occasion. What's the occasion? Daniel asked, watching her hands as she opened the bottle. She poured the dark red liquid into his glass, and Daniel saw it, a slight difference in color, barely noticeable. The poison. To us, Rebecca said, raising her glass of wine unpoisoned, Daniel noticed. To our love, our family, our future. To the truth, Daniel responded, raising his glass. Rebecca's smile flickered for just a second. You really like that toast these days. Daniel took a sip. The wine tasted wrong, bitter with a chemical undertone, but he kept drinking, taking larger sips as Rebecca watched with barely concealed anticipation. This wine tastes different, he said, setting down the glass. It's been agging, maybe it's turned, Rebecca suggested, but her eyes were bright with excitement. Daniel stood up and the room tilted. This wasn't just the drug he'd taken, his body was reacting to whatever remained of the original poison that hadn't been completely switched. I don't feel well, he said, gripping the table. Daniel, what's wrong? Rebecca's acting had begun. Tony appeared in the doorway, right on cue. Is everything okay? Daniel's legs gave out. He crashed to the floor, the wine glass shattering beside him. His vision was blurring, his chest tightening. The tetrodotoxin was working, but something was wrong. The reaction was too strong. Daniel, Rebecca screamed, dropping beside him, but Daniel caught something in her peripheral vision, Tony giving her a small thumbs up. Call an ambulance. Rebecca shouted at the house staff who had rushed in. Daniel's body convulsed. This wasn't entirely acting anymore. His heart rate was dropping faster than expected. 5 beats per minute, 3, 2. Oh my God, he's not breathing, Rebecca cried, tears streaming down her face. But through his fading vision, Daniel saw her mouth the words to Tony. It's working. The last thing Daniel heard before darkness took him was Rebecca's voice, speaking to someone on the phone. My husband just collapsed. I think he's having a heart attack. Please hurry. But underneath the panic, Daniel heard something else in her voice. Triumph, everything went black. Daniel couldn't see, but he could still hear, though sounds were muffled and distant. Sirens, voices, movement. No pulse, someone shouted. We need to move now. He felt himself being lifted onto what must have been a stretcher. Rebecca's voice followed, sobbing dramatically. Please save him, he's everything to me. Our children need their father. Such beautiful lies. The ambulance ride was a blur of sounds. Then suddenly a familiar voice, Dr. Adwale. Take over from here, the doctor said with authority. Get him to surgery immediately. Daniel felt movement, then Dr. Adwale's voice whispered close to his ear. You're safe now, Daniel, but something was wrong with that wine. There was more poison than we expected. I need to work fast. Hours passed in darkness. Sometimes Daniel heard voices, Rebecca's crying and wailing, Tony's comforting her. Other voices and neighbours, friends, all offering condolences for the tragedy. At one point he heard Rebecca and Tony talking quietly, thinking they were alone. Long before they pronounce him dead. Tony whispered, Doctor says he's gone, brain dead, they're just waiting to make it official. You were perfect, the tears, the screaming, everyone believes you're devastated. I'm devastated, Rebecca laughed quietly. Devastated it took this long to be free. What about the funeral? I already called the funeral home. That expensive casket I bought, they'll deliver it tomorrow. We bury him quickly before anyone asks questions. And the money? The accounts will be unfrozen once the death certificate is signed. We'll be billionaires, baby. Daniel wanted to scream, to jump up and strangle them both, but his body wouldn't respond. Then, finally, sensation began returning. First, tingling in his fingers. Then, slowly, his eyes began to flutter. He was in a private room at LUTH. Dr. Adwale was there checking monitors. Try to speak yet, the doctor whispered. Officially, you're brain dead. Rebecca is outside planning your funeral. Daniel blinked once to show he understood. Poison was stronger than we thought. You almost actually died, but you're stable now. The question is, how long do you want to stay dead? Daniel managed to whisper one word. Funeral, Dr. Adwale's eyes widened. You want to wait until your own funeral? Daniel nodded slightly. That's 3 days away. Can you pretend to be dead for 3 days? Daniel's eyes burned with determination. 3 days. He could do anything for 3 days if it meant seeing Rebecca and Tony's faces when he rose from the dead. Over the next day, Daniel lay perfectly still while people came to pay their respects. His mother came, and her tears were real even though she knew the truth. The children came, and hearing Timmy cry, Daddy, wake up, almost broke his resolve. Business associates, friends, government officials, they all came. And through it all, Rebecca played the perfect grieving widow. But at night, when she thought she was alone with Tony, her true self emerged. 3 days, she whispered excitedly. In 3 days, we bury him and we're free. Kids. They'll forget him eventually. You'll be their new daddy. It's perfect. Daniel's rage kept building. 3 days. He could last 3 days, because on the 3rd day at his own funeral, Daniel Ademi would rise from the dead and show all of Lagos what betrayal looked like. The countdown to resurrection had begun. The 2nd day of being dead was harder than the 1st. Daniel lay in the hospital bed, his body still as stone while his mind raced with fury. Through the thin walls, he could hear Rebecca in the hallway, talking to someone on the phone about funeral arrangements. Yes, I want white roses everywhere. My husband loved white roses, she lied smoothly. Daniel hated roses. He was allergic to them, something his wife of 12 years apparently never bothered to remember. Dr. Adwale entered quietly, pretending to check on the corpse, while actually making sure Daniel was okay. Your lawyer is here, he whispered. She needs to speak with you urgently. Folake slipped in after the doctor left, her face grim. Daniel, we have a problem, a big one. Daniel's eyes flickered open slightly. I've been investigating more. Rebecca and Tony didn't just steal 70 million. They've been setting up offshore accounts for 3 years. The total is close to 500 million naira. 500 million, £500 million naira stolen from right under his nose. But that's not the worst part, Folktale continued, keeping her voice low. I found something about your father's death. Daniel's heart, already slow from the drugs, seemed to stop completely. Your father's plane crashed 2 years ago. It wasn't an accident. The pilot survived, remember? He's been in hiding in Ghana. Segun found him. He says someone paid him 10 million naira to crash the plane and make it look like mechanical failure. Daniel's eyes burned with unshed tears. His father, Chief Ademi, had died on his way to Daniel's birthday celebration in Abuja. The man who built everything from nothing, who taught Daniel about honor and hard work, murdered. Who? Daniel managed to whisper. The pilot identified Tony from a photo. Tony paid him. The room spun even though Daniel was lying down. Tony had killed his father. But why? Your father was about to change his will, Folktale explained. He found out about Rebecca's first affair, not with Tony, with someone else. He was going to cut her out completely, make sure she got nothing if anything happened to you. First affair, there were others before Tony. Folktale pulled out her phone, showing Daniel bank records. 5 years ago, Rebecca was having an affair with Chief Balagun. Remember when he died suddenly? Heart attack at 45. Daniel remembered. Chief Balagun had been his business mentor. It wasn't a heart attack, Folktale said quietly. Same poison. Rebecca killed him when he threatened to tell you about their affair. 2 murders. His wife had killed twice before trying to kill him. A commotion outside interrupted them. Rebecca's voice rose in anger. What do you mean the accounts are frozen? My husband is dead. I need access to the money for his funeral. Someone responded in a calm official voice, probably the bank manager. This is ridiculous. I'm his wife. I have rights. Folktale smiled grimly. I got a court injunction. All accounts are frozen until the will is properly executed. She can't touch a kobo. Rebecca's cursing could be heard through the walls. Then Tony's voice trying to calm her. It's just temporary, baby. After the funeral, everything will be released. It better be. I didn't go through all this to end up with nothing. This, like murdering him, was just a minor inconvenience. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. A woman Daniel didn't recognize entered his room. She was young, maybe 25, with a small baby in her arms. Dr. Adwale tried to stop her. Madam, you can't be here. I need to see him, she insisted. Even if he's dead, I need to tell him the truth. She approached Daniel's bed, tears streaming down her face. Mr. Daniel, you don't know me. My name is Amaka. I was Tony's girlfriend 3 years ago. This is his son. His real son. Daniel's eyes almost flew open. Tony had another child. Tony left me when he found out I was pregnant, Amaka continued, speaking to what she thought was a corpse. He said he had bigger plans, that he was going to marry a rich widow soon. I didn't understand then, but now I do. He was talking about your wife. She adjusted the baby in her arms. I came because you deserve to know. Tony and your wife have been planning this for 4 years. I heard them talking about it when I was pregnant. They were going to kill you, take your money, and run away to Dubai. 4 years, when Kemi was just a baby, when Daniel thought his marriage was at its strongest. I should have warned you, Amaka sobbed. But Tony threatened me, said he'd kill me and my baby if I said anything. After what happened to Chief Balagun and your father, I believed him. She knew about the murders. This young woman knew and had been living in fear. I'm sorry, Mr. Daniel, I'm so sorry. After she left, Segun arrived with more information. The funeral is tomorrow, he reported. St. Matthew's Cathedral in Ikoyi. Over 500 people are expected. The governor, ministers, celebrities. Rebecca has made it the social event of the year. She's already being interviewed by newspapers, Segun continued, playing the devastated widow perfectly. She even fainted during one interview. Daniel listened as Segun detailed the funeral arrangements, the most expensive casket, a gold-plated hearse, designer funeral programs. Rebecca was spending his money on his fake funeral like it was a wedding. Oh, and Daniel, Segun's voice dropped. I had my people check something. Remember Timmy's accident last year? When he fell down the stairs, Daniel remembered. His son had been in the hospital for a week with a head injury. It wasn't an accident. The nanny saw Rebecca push him. She was fired the next day and paid to keep quiet. Rebecca had hurt their son, their actual son. Why? Daniel whispered. Nanny thinks Rebecca was angry because Timmy looks too much like you. She wanted him to look more like Tony so the resemblance wouldn't raise questions later. Daniel felt something inside him break completely. Then, slowly, it reformed into something harder, colder. Tomorrow would be his funeral. Tomorrow, the entire Lagos elite would gather to mourn him. Tomorrow, he would rise. That evening, Rebecca came one last time. She stood over his bed, and for a moment, Daniel thought she might show some remorse, some tiny bit of humanity. "You know, Daniel," she said quietly, "you were actually a good man, too good. That was your problem. You never suspected anything because you couldn't imagine anyone being evil. You thought everyone was as honest as you." She laughed softly. I almost felt bad about it, almost. "But 5 billion naira helps ease any guilt. Oh yes, I know about all the hidden accounts. Tony's very thorough." She leaned closer. "The children will be fine. Tony will be a good father, better than you actually. He knows how to have fun, how to live. You were always so serious, so boring." She straightened up. "Goodbye, Daniel, thanks for the money, and don't worry, I'll make sure your funeral is memorable. Lagos will talk about it for years." She walked out, her heels clicking on the hospital floor. Dr. Adwale came in after she left. "Tomorrow's the day, are you ready?" Daniel's eyes opened fully for the first time in 3 days. "I've never been more ready for anything in my life." "The police?" "Detective Adesanya's team will be at the cathedral," Folktale confirmed. "Hidden among the mourners, the moment you reveal yourself, they move in." "And the media?" "Every major station will be there. It's the funeral of the year, remember." Daniel sat up slowly, his muscles protesting after 3 days of stillness. "Good, I want all of Nigeria to see this." He looked out the window at the Lagos night sky. Tomorrow, St. Matthew's Cathedral would host a resurrection. Rebecca wanted a memorable funeral. She was about to get one. The woman who'd killed 2 men and tried to kill him was about to learn that sometimes the dead don't stay dead. And sometimes they come back for justice. The morning of the funeral arrived with the kind of perfect weather that felt like mockery. Clear blue skies over Lagos, birds singing in the palm trees, as if nature didn't care that a woman was about to bury the husband she murdered. Daniel stood in Dr. Adwale's office at LUTH, dressed in a simple black suit. No one would recognize him immediately. 3 days of death had left him looking gaunt, and Segun had given him plain glasses and styled his hair differently. "Hearse left the funeral home 30 minutes ago," Segun reported. "Empty casket, but it weighs the same as if you were in it. We added sandbags." Through the window, Daniel could see the convoy of expensive cars heading towards St. Matthew's Cathedral in Ikoyi. Rebecca had spared no expense: a gold-plated hearse, dozens of black Mercedes-Benzes, police escorts with sirens. "She's spending your money like water," Folktale said bitterly. "This funeral cost 15 million naira. "It's her last party on my account," Daniel said coldly. "Let her enjoy it." St. Matthew's Cathedral was already packed when they arrived separately. Daniel entered through a side door, wearing a face mask and sunglasses like someone trying to avoid COVID. He took a seat at the very back, behind a pillar where he could see everything but remain hidden. The cathedral was transformed. White roses everywhere, the ones Daniel was allergic to. Giant portraits of him hung on every wall, photoshopped to make him look older, weaker. Rebecca had literally aged him in death. Who's who of Lagos society filled the pews. The governor sat in the front row. Ministers, senators, oil executives, celebrities, everyone who mattered was there. CNN Nigeria had cameras rolling. Arise TV was broadcasting live. Then the organ music began and the massive doors opened. The casket was carried in by 6 men, including Tony, all wearing matching black suits with gold pins. Behind them came Rebecca, held up by 2 women as if she could barely walk from grief. She was wearing a black Valentino dress that Daniel recognized. It cost 8 million naira. She'd bought it 2 weeks ago before she'd even poisoned him. Her jewelry was new too, diamonds that caught the light. She looked like a queen in mourning, not a widow. "She's not even trying to hide it," someone whispered behind Daniel. "Look at those diamonds, blood diamonds if you ask me." The casket was placed at the front and Rebecca collapsed beside it, wailing, "My husband, oh my darling husband." Her performance was Oscar-worthy. She clung to the casket, tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face. Tony rushed to comfort her, holding her as she sobbed into his chest. The crowd was moved. Women dabbed their eyes. Men looked away respectfully. Father Paul, the head priest, began the service. "We gather here today to celebrate the life of Daniel Ademi, a titan of industry, a loving husband, a devoted father." Daniel almost laughed. loving husband to a murderer, devoted father to children who weren't all his. The tributes began. First, the governor spoke about Daniel's contributions to Lagos state's economy. Then the Minister of Petroleum praised his integrity in business. Each speech was beautiful, touching, and being given at a fake funeral. Then Tony stood to speak, Daniel's hands clenched into fists. Daniel was more than my best friend, Tony began, his voice cracking with fake emotion. He was my brother. We grew up together, built our dreams together. I promised him I would take care of his family, and I swear on his grave Rebecca and the children will never want for anything. The crowd applauded. Someone shouted, "Good man," from the back. Tony continued, Daniel always said life was short, that we should live each day fully. He lived by that principle, and even though he was taken from us too soon. By the poison your girlfriend put in his wine, Daniel muttered under his breath. His legacy will live on through his beautiful wife and children. Tony returned to his seat, accepting condolences and pats on the back. The supportive best friend, the honourable man. If only they knew he'd murdered Daniel's father and fathered Daniel's daughter. Finally, it was Rebecca's turn. She stood slowly, dramatically, making her way to the podium like she was walking to her own execution. "My beloved husband," she began and had to stop, apparently overcome by emotion. The cathedral was silent except for her sobs. "Daniel was my everything," she continued. "For 12 beautiful years he loved me unconditionally. He gave me 2 beautiful children, a wonderful life and more love than any woman deserves." Daniel noticed how she kept mentioning the children as his, even though she knew Kemi was Tony's. "Just last week he told me he loved me more than life itself," Rebecca lied smoothly. "He said I was his queen, his angel, his reason for living. Last week he'd been in Dubai while she was buying poison in Computer Village. I don't know how I'll go on without him," Rebecca's voice broke perfectly. "But I promise, my darling, I will raise our children to remember their father. I will honor your memory every day, and I will love you forever, even in death." Crowd was in tears. Even hardened businessmen were wiping their eyes. Rebecca had given the performance of her life. She returned to her seat and Father Paul stood to begin the final prayers. This was the moment. If Daniel was going to act, it had to be now. He stood up. At first, no one noticed. Then he removed his face mask and sunglasses. A woman in the row ahead turned and gasped so loudly that others turned to look. Daniel began walking down the center aisle. "Excuse me, sir, the funeral," an usher started to say, then stopped, his face going pale. More people turned. Gasps rippled through the cathedral like a wave. Someone dropped a hymn book. The organ player hit a wrong note and stopped. Daniel kept walking, his footsteps echoing in the growing silence. He could see Rebecca at the front, still facing forward, but Tony had turned. The blood drained from his face so fast Daniel thought he might faint. "Jesus Christ," someone whispered. "Is that?" "It can't be." Rebecca turned, probably to see what was causing the commotion. Their eyes met. For a moment, time stopped. Rebecca's carefully crafted mask of grief shattered completely. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her eyes went wide with terror, then disbelief, then terror again. Daniel reached the front of the cathedral and turned to face the congregation. "I'm sorry I'm late to my own funeral," he said, his voice carrying through the silent cathedral. Traffic from the afterlife was terrible. Chaos erupted. People stood, phones came out, cameras flashed like lightning. Someone screamed. The governor's mouth hung open. Father Paul dropped his Bible and crossed himself. "Daniel," Rebecca's voice was barely a whisper. "But you're dead," the doctor said. "The poison." "The poison you put in my wine?" Daniel asked loudly. "The one you bought from that woman in Computer Village?" "Yes, I knew about that." Cathedral went silent again. "Impossible." Tony stood up, trying to maintain control. "This is some sick joke. This man is an imposter." "Am I Tony?" Daniel turned to his former best friend. "Or should I say the man who murdered my father, the man who fathered my daughter Kemi, the man who's been sleeping with my wife for 4 years while calling me brother?" Gasps echoed through the cathedral. The CNN camera swung between Daniel, Rebecca, and Tony like watching a tennis match. "That's a lie," Rebecca screamed. "He's lying. This isn't my husband." Daniel pulled out his phone and connected it to the cathedral's sound system. Suddenly, Rebecca's voice filled the space. "The poison is untraceable. One drop in his wine and Daniel will be history." Then Tony's voice. "What about his mother?" Rebecca again. "That old woman. After Daniel dies, I'll cut her off completely. She won't even see her grandchildren again." The recording continued. Every damning word, every laugh, every detail of their plan broadcasted to the entire cathedral and live on television. "Security," Tony shouted. "Remove this man." But the security guards were actually Detective Adesanya's men. They moved in, surrounding Tony and Rebecca. "Anthony Okchukwu, you're under arrest for murder and conspiracy to commit murder," Detective Adesanya announced. "Rebecca Ademi, you're under arrest for attempted murder, fraud and conspiracy." No, Rebecca tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. "This isn't happening, he was dead," the doctor confirmed it. "Dr. Adwale confirmed what he needed to keep me safe from my murderous wife," Daniel said coldly. As the handcuffs clicked on Rebecca's wrists, she made one last desperate plea. "Daniel, please, think of the children, they need their mother." "You mean my son Timmy, who you pushed down the stairs? Or Kemi, who isn't even mine but Tony's?" The crowd gasped again. This was better than any Nollywood movie. "Could you?" Rebecca screamed at Tony. "You said you loved me." "Shut up," Tony snapped, his mask finally dropping completely. "This is your fault, your poison didn't work." They turned on each other right there, in front of everyone, blaming each other as the police dragged them out. Daniel stood at the altar, looking at the empty casket that was supposed to hold his body. Then he turned to the stunned congregation. "You all came to bury me today. Instead, you witnessed the burial of a lie. For 12 years, I lived with a woman who killed 2 men before trying to kill me. I called a man brother who murdered my father for money." He paused, his voice breaking slightly. "But I'm alive. And as long as I breathe, I'll make sure justice is served. Not just for me, but for my father, for Chief Balagun, and for everyone else these monsters hurt." The cathedral erupted in applause. People were crying, some from shock, others from witnessing what felt like a miracle. As Daniel walked out, his mother was waiting by the door. She pulled him into a tight embrace. "My son," she whispered, "you really did rise from the dead." "I had to, Mama, I had to show everyone who they really were." Sighed. Rebecca and Tony were being put into police cars. Rebecca looked back one last time, mascara running down her face, her perfect image destroyed forever. "This isn't over, Daniel," she screamed. "You hear me, this isn't over." But it was. The woman who'd planned the perfect murder had been exposed at her victim's funeral. The man who'd pretended to be a brother had been revealed as a killer. Daniel stood on the cathedral steps, breathing in the Lagos air as news vans surrounded him, as reporters shouted questions as the story of the century unfolded. He had died and come back, but more importantly, he had brought the truth back with him. 6 months after the funeral that shocked Nigeria, Daniel sat in the courtroom at the Lagos High Court in Igboza. The trial had been the most watched case in Nigerian legal history. Every day, new revelations emerged that made the public gasp in horror and fascination. Rebecca sat in the defendant's box, a shadow of her former self. No more Brazilian hair, no more designer clothes. Prison uniforms didn't come in Versace. Her face, without the expensive makeup, looked older, harder. The mask was finally off permanently. Tony sat separately, his shoulders slumped in defeat. The man who'd walked with swagger now couldn't even meet anyone's eyes. Between them sat their lawyers, but everyone knew this was a lost cause. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" Justice Adelek asked. "We have, Your Honor," the foreman stood. Daniel held his breath. Even though the evidence was overwhelming, Nigerian justice could be unpredictable. On the count of murder in the first degree of Chief Ademi, we find Anthony Okchukwu guilty. Tony's head dropped to the table. On the count of murder in the first degree of Chief Balagun, we find Rebecca Ademi guilty. Rebecca didn't react. She stared straight ahead, her eyes empty. On the count of attempted murder of Daniel Ademi, we find both defendants guilty. Courtroom erupted. Reporters rushed to file their stories. Daniel's mother, sitting beside him, squeezed his hand so tight it hurt. On the count of fraud, embezzlement and conspiracy, we find both defendants guilty on all charges. Justice Adelek banged his gavel for silence. "Rebecca Ademi, you are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. You murdered one man, attempted to murder your husband and stole hundreds of millions. You are a danger to society." Rebecca finally reacted. A single tear rolled down her cheek, but she said nothing. "Anthony Okchukwu, you are sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The murder of Chief Ademi was particularly heinous, killing your best friend's father for money. You, sir, are the worst kind of human being." As they were led away, Rebecca suddenly turned to Daniel. "What about my children?" "You mean my son and your daughter with Tony?" Daniel's voice was ice. "They're safe, that's more than you deserve to know. Please, Daniel. Let me see them, just once." "You tried to make them orphans, Rebecca. You pushed Timmy down the stairs. You were planning to flee the country with them. No, you'll never see them again. Rebecca broke down completely, screaming and fighting the guards as they dragged her out. Tony didn't even look back. Outside the courthouse, Daniel faced the press for what he hoped would be the last time. Mr. Adami, how do you feel about the verdict? Arise TV asked. Justice has been served, but no verdict can bring back my father or undo the betrayal. I'm just grateful to be alive. About the children. This was the hardest part. Timmy, now 7, understood that Mommy had done something very bad, but Kemi, only 4, kept asking when Mommy was coming home. The children are in therapy. We're taking it one day at a time. Despite everything, they're innocent in all this. Will you raise Kemi, even though she's not biologically yours? Daniel had wrestled with this question for months. I've raised her since birth. I'm the only father she knows. Biology doesn't erase love. Yes, I'm keeping both children. Later that day, Daniel visited his father's grave at Ikoyi Cemetery. The headstone read, Chief William Adami, a man of honor. We got them, Baba, Daniel said quietly. Tony will rot in jail for what he did to you. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. A soft voice behind him said, he would be proud of you. Daniel turned to find Grace, the nurse from the hospital who'd helped during his fake death. Over the past 6 months, she'd been a constant support, helping with the children, attending every court date. Grace, you didn't have to come. I wanted to. Today must be hard, even with the guilty verdict. They stood together in comfortable silence, looking at the grave. Grace had never pushed, never asked for more than friendship, but Daniel felt something growing between them. Something real, built on truth rather than lies. The children are asking if you're coming for dinner tonight, Daniel said. Timmy promised to show me his new football moves, Grace smiled. And Kemi wants me to read her that princess story again. Calls you Auntie Grace now. I know, is that okay? Daniel looked at this woman who'd entered his life at his darkest moment. She was nothing like Rebecca, simple where Rebecca was flashy, genuine where Rebecca was fake, kind where Rebecca was cruel. It's more than okay. 2 years later, the beach house in Lekki was filled with laughter. Timmy, now 9, was chasing Kemi, 6, through the waves. Their squeals of joy carried on the ocean breeze. Daniel watched from the porch, a genuine smile on his face. The past 2 years had been about healing, rebuilding, learning to trust again. Daddy, look, Kemi called out, holding up a seashell. It's beautiful. Just like you, princess, Daniel called back. She ran to him, throwing her sandy arms around his neck. He no longer thought about Tony when he looked at her. She was his daughter in every way that mattered. Daddy, when is Auntie Grace coming? Timmy asked. She should be here. I'm here, Grace's voice called out. She walked onto the beach, carrying a picnic basket, wearing a simple sundress that made her look radiant. The children ran to her, and Daniel's heart swelled watching them. Over the past 2 years, Grace had slowly become part of their family. She never pushed, never demanded, just loved them all with quiet consistency. I brought jollof rice, she announced, making the children cheer. As they set up the picnic, Daniel caught Grace's hand. Thank you. Bringing food, for bringing life back to this family. Grace squeezed his hand. You did that yourself. You chose forgiveness over bitterness. You chose to raise Kemi despite everything. You chose to trust again. That evening, as the sun set over the Atlantic, Daniel got down on one knee. The children gasped. Adeboy, you walked into my life when I was literally playing dead. You've shown me that real love is quiet, consistent and true. You've loved my children without question. Will you marry me? Grace was crying, but these were happy tears. Yes, yes, of course. The children cheered and joined the embrace. A family not perfect but real, built on truth, not lies. 1 month later, they had a small wedding on that same beach. No politicians, no oil executives, no Lagos high society. Just family and close friends who'd stood by them through the nightmare. As they exchanged vows, Daniel thought about his journey. From the man who'd overheard his murder being planned to the man standing here, promising to love again. Promise to always be honest with you, he told Grace. To trust you and be worthy of your trust. To love you not with grand gestures but with daily kindness. I promise to stand by you through whatever comes, Grace replied. To love Timmy and Kemi as my own, to help you continue healing, to make our home a place of peace and truth. Mr. Segun, who'd become a family friend, served as best man. You know what the best revenge is, Daniel. What? Living well, and brother, you're living very well. As the sun set on their wedding day, Cunnel, still Daniel's loyal driver, now more like family, raised a toast. To second chances. To second chances, everyone echoed. Later that night, Daniel stood on the beach with his new family. Grace held his hand while Timmy and Kemi played in the sand, their laughter echoing across the water. His phone buzzed with a news alert. Rebecca Adami found dead in prison, apparent suicide. Daniel looked at the message for a long moment, then deleted it. Rebecca was the past. This Grace, the children, this moment was his future. "You okay?" Grace asked, noticing his expression. "I'm perfect," Daniel said and meant it. Kemi ran up to them. "Daddy, Mommy, Grace, come play." And they did. The four of them, a family forged through fire but stronger for it, played in the waves under the stars. Daniel had attended his own funeral and exposed the truth. He'd seen justice served. But more importantly, he'd learned that the best resurrection wasn't about coming back from the dead. It was about choosing to truly live. 5 years later, Daniel's story was made into a movie that swept the Africa Magic Awards. At the premiere, someone asked him if he regretted marrying Rebecca. "No," he answered, holding Grace's hand while pregnant with their first biological child together. "Every experience, even the painful ones, led me here, and here is exactly where I'm supposed to be." Timmy, now 14 and taller than his father, stood proud in his first suit. Kemi, 11 and beautiful, looked just like a perfect mix of her biological parents, but carried herself with Daniel's dignity. "Mr. Adami, what would you tell someone going through betrayal?" a reporter asked. Daniel thought for a moment. "Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. But also, don't let betrayal close your heart forever. There are still good people in this world. Sometimes you have to die to your old life to be reborn into a better one." That night, as Lagos slept, Daniel stood on his balcony with Grace, looking at the city lights. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't come home early that night?" Grace asked. "I'd be dead," Daniel said simply. "But maybe that was meant to happen, not the dying part but the discovering. The universe has a way of revealing truth, even if it has to drag us through hell first." "And would you do it all again? The fake death, the funeral revelation?" Daniel pulled her close. "To get to this moment, to have you, to keep the children, to honor my father's memory with justice. Yes, 1,000 times yes." In the distance, the third mainland bridge stretched across the lagoon, its lights reflecting on the water like stars. Lagos continued its endless rhythm, the city of hustlers and dreamers, of betrayal and redemption. Daniel Adami had been poisoned by his wife, betrayed by his best friend, and had attended his own funeral. But he'd survived. More than survived, he'd thrived. And in the end, that was the greatest revenge of all. Not the imprisonment of his enemies, but the beautiful life he'd built from the ashes of betrayal. The man who'd asked, "What would you do if you heard your wife planning your murder?" now had his answer. You survive, you seek justice, you protect the innocent, and then, against all odds, you learn to love again. Because the best resurrection isn't about coming back from the dead, it's about finally learning how to live. Daniel Adami's story became legend in Lagos, the man who rose from the dead to seek justice. But more than that, it became a story of redemption, of choosing love over bitterness, of building truth from deception. In the end, Rebecca and Tony lost everything to their greed, while Daniel gained what money couldn't buy: a real family, honest love and peace. The wine meant to kill him had instead revealed the poison in his life, and in surviving it, he'd found something worth living for. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories. I am Mr. Bobo. See you on our next upload.